Hey everybody, it's Jill, Floozie Crafts. So I brought you in for a close-up of this hat that we're going to make today, and I want to show you the hat and the yarns. And then we will get into the supplies that you will need here in just a moment. So first of all, as a contrast for this hat in the black, I am using the Serenity Sock by Premier. Now the yarns that I'm using, this is a collaboration that I am doing with Daniel at Pawply Yarns. So the first color I used here is this one, which is the Cavalier King Charles, which is what his dog Oslo is. And then I use this lighter color here, which is Australian Shepherd. And then I use this one here, which is the Siberian Husky. Now these are the Pawply Yarn Co. I'll leave all the information down below. They are 75% superwash and 25% nylon, 425 meters, 100 grams. Okay, now you can use any number 1 to number 2 yarn for the original pattern, but in the pattern you will have enough information where you can make this also in a DK or a worsted weight yarn, and you can also change the sizes. Now let's give you a close-up here of the pattern that's on it. I created this using this paw here and then these little puppies up in here. I absolutely love this. This is a beanie style with the nice decrease at the top, and it measures, let's see, let me get my measuring tape out. It measures 7 inches from the top of the hat to the brim. The brim has about 1 inch to 1.25 inches of ribbing. So it is, as it is short, it is a beanie style. However, you could make this longer, you could make it a little bit bigger and make it into a regular hat size. Now the amount of yarn, I would say you're going to need around 20 grams of each of your colors if you're going to switch the colors. So I have 3, and then this one, probably your darker color with these contrasts, are probably only going to use about 10 grams. So that means that you're going to need approximately 200 yards of fingering weight yarn, number one to number 2 of 200 yards of that yarn total. And we're using a 3 millimeter 16-inch circular needle. This is a boy that I used to excuse me, to make this hat, and we're going to need 3 millimeter. Now I do not have them all in the same color, so I have one that's an oddball, but the same size in double point needles. And these are your supplies: scissors, you're going to need stitch markers, I used stitch markers to do my decreases up here, which you will need several of them to mark when you start decreasing. Okay, let's get started. Okay guys, now to start our hat, I wanted to show you how I decide how many stitches to, I've shown this to you several times. Get yourself a little bit of a tail, and then you're going to wrap it around, and once you get a good wrap, then you start counting. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 20. Now I'm going to pinch it right there, pull it off with a needle, and of course I have my tail, but where I pinched it, I'm going to double it. That's 40. I'm going to pinch it there, double it again. That's 80. Pinch it, double it again. And that is 160, and that should be plenty in order to have enough stitches. Now we're going to make our first loop. I use the long tail cast on. You're going to cast on 140 stitches with color A. Now, I marked every 50 stitches with my marker and then did my last 40. And now you want to set this, and you want to, we're going to close this, but we want these not to be twisted. So be sure you straighten out all your stitches. And I do it so they're all laying to the center. Now we're going to pick it up. We know that they're not twisted. I'm going to scooch this down closer to the end. This one's already fairly close. Now I'm going to take this needle and pick up this stitch knitwise, so as if to knit it, lift it up, put it onto that needle. Take my right hand needle, lift up the second stitch, which is the end one over here, place it over the top of that one. Oh, I split it just a little bit. Now I don't take this stitch off. I'm going to put my stitch marker right in between them and begin knitting. We are going to knit 2, and purl 2. Which is our ribbing, and it's going to be the brim of our hat. So do your knit 2, purl 2 all the way around, which is why if you see in the instructions on the pattern that you can increase and make this a larger hat, you need to use, for your ribbing, you need to increase by 14 stitches for the pattern. So 14 stitches will give you the even tightness that you need to be able to do the ribbing. Okay, but that's all in the pattern, and I will meet you back after we have come around. We're going to do a row of knit 2, purl 2 all the way around, and I will meet you back. Okay guys, we're coming up to the other end. Here's my stitch marker, so I'm only a few stitches away, but I really wanted to show you guys something that I learned quite a while ago and that has helped me quite a bit when I'm trying to do this, especially on the first row, first round. So I'm going to come up to these purl stitches, and sometimes it's really hard to kind of get, it's hard to get underneath there. So here's a trick you can do. While holding this stitch with my finger, I put my needle at the back, slide that needle down and put it to the back. And now you're on the inside where you need to be for your purl. And then I purl it. Let me show you that again. Just go ahead and slide it into the back of that stitch, okay? Now you're going to slide this right hand needle down into the back of the stitch again to where it's at the back, and this needle is now at the front. And then purl it. That helps me an awful lot on this first round, because for some reason these stitches are a little bit fiddly trying to get into them. You know, this is not a worked round, it's just a cast on, and that makes it a little bit tighter and it makes it a little bit fiddly. So, you know, sometimes I can do it and sometimes I can't. I just really wanted to see. I just go around. I almost do it all the way around, just almost, because those stitches just don't want to behave. Now we're on our last 2 stitches, which again are purls right before our stitch marker. They should always be 2 purls right before the stitch marker on a ribbing, on this particular ribbing. And don't worry, it's always a little loose right there. Now I put my yarn at the back and I'm going to move my stitch marker, which is kind of backwards. You can't see that it's a little hard. So we're going to do rows 1 through 10 are the knit 2, purl 2 ribbing. So continue on and finish these 10 rows, and then I will show you how we do our increases. And see, these purls are much easier now on this second round. Okay, so 10 rows of the 10 total rows of your knit 2, purl 2. Unless you choose to do more, you can do more of your ribbing. If you want your ribbing a little bit longer, you can do more rows. So this is what we have so far. We have our 10 rounds of our ribbing, and I've got 2 stitches left right before my stitch marker. And now I'm going to join with my larger needle. Okay, I'm ready to join with my larger needle. I have the other end tucked into my bag so you guys won't hear it banging around on my desk. I've got the last 2 stitches right before this stitch marker, which are purl stitches. I have my yarn forward. I'm going to put my new needle back there, and I kind of hold them all right here together. Wrap my yarn around in between the back needle and the new needle, purl that stitch, again holding them, purl that stitch. I'll move my stitch marker over. Now I'm going to move the yarn to the back of the new needle. Now the next 2 are knit stitches. If I did not mention that we are going to be switching to a larger needle, please refer to the pattern, because I cannot remember whether I told you that when we first started. And if I did not, I do apologize. Now, we are also going to increase stitches, okay? So every 14 stitches, we're going to increase by 1. And we're not going to purl now because we're done with our ribbing. So that's knit, knit. Now I'm going to keep on knitting till I've knit to the 14th stitch. Pulling it tight. And every few stitches I grab the new needle and the yarn and just kind of give everything a nice little pull. So now I'm at 10. Do keep an eye on this other stitch and make sure that you're not losing your stitches there. You can start edging them down the needle a little bit because you're going to be taking this needle off. Okay, now we're on the 14th stitch. So tighten that up just a little bit. And you can do this a couple of ways. We don't really want these to lean. We don't want a space. So we're not going to do the loop to make an extra stitch because that will leave a space there that we do not want. So please do not do that increase. The best increase really for this, now I sometimes will come down here and grab this in between and put it up on the needle and then knit it. But your best increase is a knit front and back, and I do have a tutorial for that. So I'm going to knit the front, flip it around, and knit the back. And again, that was our 14th stitch, and we've just increased. And do this every 14. So just start over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to have to pull this out here so I can give you a little better angle. 10, 'kay, this is the 14th stitch. Knit the front, yarn to the back, and knit the back without taking anything, oh, I lost it, without taking anything off the needle. There it is, right there. Okay guys, continue to do this. You'll continue to put your stitches onto the new needle. You're going to go all the way around, putting them onto the new needle and increasing every on the 14th stitch of every 14th stitch around. Okay, so now I am now off of this needle and totally onto my bigger needle. And I have these two right here that I purled earlier. And I'm going to knit those, and that's number 13 and 14. Pull that tight a little bit there. Pull it tight again before you make that one foot into the back. And now you have increased all the way around your 14 stitches. I got that one caught up in there. There we go. All right, now I'm going to cut this color, and I'm going to join my new color. Leave a fairly nice tail there. So I've got my new color. I've got a little bit of a tail there. Fold it over. Lay it on. Insert my needle. Lay my new color on. And begin knitting. Now you've got to pull everything tight again. And you will pull this tight when you come back around. Now, I'll show you what I usually do. Now we're just going to knit this round. Just knit every stitch. I usually go for 5 or 6 stitches. And then I will turn it over. And these are my two tails, the tail that I cut and the new tail. And I will just give them a little bit of a, not a real tight knot, but just kind of knot them together with just one pull. That kind of tightens all that area right there up around where we joined. Okay, so you're going to knit this round, and you're going to knit for 4 more rows. Now you can wait and you can cut your yarn after. It's up to you. If you go ahead and leave the other yarn attached and then come back around and cut the yarn, either way is absolutely fine. I tell you to do that in the pattern instructions simply because it is easier for some people than trying to wrangle that hole right there when they begin. But that's another option, is to tie them. See, it does loosen up. That's why I don't do a full knot right there. I just do it, and then I kind of, just kind of tighten it up. And then as you go around, it'll be less of a hole. Okay guys, so I will see you after you get 4 rows in. If you would like your hat to be a little bit longer than beanie style, then you can do the more rows here. It is customizable for the length of the hat, the height of the hat that you want. This is a beanie style, so we're going to do a total of 5 rows before we start our pattern, and I'll see you back there.